Burnout isn't the problem. Not knowing what comes after is. Because if there was a clear next step, most chefs wouldn't feel stuck. You are listening to Fugitive Chefs, a podcast about what happens when chefs step outside the traditional kitchen path. I'm Furkan, I've worked in kitchens like Noma and Mugaritz, and today I work outside restaurants as a senior innovation chef at Kraft Heinz. Some episodes are conversations with chefs building new paths. Others, like this one, are just me trying to make sense of what's actually going on in this industry. If you've ever felt like there's more to being a chef than just service, you're in the right place. We talk about kitchen burnout in this industry a lot. Long hours, pressure, toxic kitchens, no work-life balance. And yes, all of that you heard before is real, and that is partly what's causing burnout. But I think we've misunderstood what burnout actually is. Because burnout sounds temporary, it sounds like a condition. It sounds like something you recover from. Like you take a break, you switch kitchens or the job that you're doing, you sort of reset, and then you come back. But that's not what I've been seeing. A lot of chefs don't come back, not because they are tired, but because something has changed within them. That's a very specific moment that no one really talks about. For me, just like speaking from personal experience, kitchen burnout didn't really happen in a very dramatic way. It wasn't like I walked out of a kitchen or a sudden, a lightning bolt hit me and I was like, okay, I'm burnt out and what's next for me? For me, it was much quieter, and this is why I think people sort of undervalue what's happening to them because they feel it has to be dramatic. So it doesn't have to be dramatic. For me personally, it was like I remember being in kitchens like in Mugaritz, I would say not that much because I was still very young and still learning. So there was this appetite to keep learning, which is why Noma happened next, because I was thinking here I'm comfortable now being 3 years in Mugaritz. Maybe there is more out there that I could learn. I was exposed to Copenhagen through a scholarship through Mad Academy, and that gave me the exposure. And I thought, okay, that's a city where I would like to be. And then the whole Noma chapter happened. There's a whole episode about that. But for me, what happened is there was other factors, like there was immigration, there was problems, like personal problems around living in Copenhagen and missing the Spanish culture as partly. So all these factors were gathering around it. Plus, I was feeling that within Noma, at least, I was feeling that the hours were extreme. Honestly, we used to go like technically we used to go 5 days to work, but we all had keys. As paid employees, you have keys to the restaurant. And if you're serving a dish that has to be marinated, say 24 hours before service, so for Tuesday service, even though Mondays you're off, you have to walk in, step in and do that if that prep has to be done that days before. Or if there's a supplier who brings like beeswax only on Monday, you have to go let in the person to bring the purveyor to bring the beeswax and process that on Monday because it can't be kept for Tuesday. So things like this, I think, gathered. So I would say immigration, personal problems, Copenhagen as a city, the climate, I would say the climate factor of it, and extreme work hours. Plus also feeling that the people at the leadership levels were not really the people I would aspire to be. I think all of this together shaped sort of this burnout where I was like, okay, I can perform here. I can keep on going with this. I see a clear path where I would end up if I stay here for the next 5 years. But it's just not something I can align with anymore. It's just not something I value anymore. And that happened for me. So internally, I started having this thought that I did not expect. Like, even if I keep going, like, let's see, best case scenario, even if I keep going, where does this actually lead me? And that was for me the most uncomfortable sort of, or like a wake-up call. Because all this while before reaching Noma, this was supposed to be the goal. So when you reach your goal or this idea of a goal that you had for yourself and it still doesn't align with the aspiration of a goal or how it would feel, because you've possibly imagined how it would feel when you're there and it doesn't feel like that anymore, I think that is a major, scope shifting kind of moment where you get kind of on your nerves because it doesn't match the imagination that you had drawn for yourself. So I think that's when I realized that it's not that I don't love cooking anymore, I don't love fine dining anymore, but it's just that I couldn't see a future for myself in that version of the life that I was in. And this episode is focused on that real part that happens after the burnout sets in. The time after, it's not dramatic, it's not like you walk out mid-service, it's much quieter than that. It's the moment where you're still doing everything that you had planned to do by when you thought of working in kitchens in the first place, but something doesn't feel right anymore. You're on the pass, you're in prep, you're plating in a restaurant, and you just think, or you have this moment where you think, is this it? And that question is dangerous because once it shows up, it doesn't really go away. And what makes this question even worse, I would say, is that it's nothing that is technically wrong. You might be in a good kitchen working under a chef you respect, somebody you like aspire to work with. You are possibly doing everything you once wanted to. So externally, when somebody looks at where you are right now, everything sort of looks right. But internally, something feels off and you don't really have the language for it. And a lot of you I know who are listening can connect with this because no one sort of prepared you for this stage. And this is the part I think we need to talk about more. No one tells chefs what comes after burnout. There's enough series, movies, Instagram videos. There's a lot about burnout, like how it's happening or how kitchens are toxic and this and that. But there's no one telling chefs what comes after burnout. There's no roadmap. No one really explains what your options are, what other paths exist, how to even start thinking differently. So what do? We default to what we know. Either we stay in the same kitchen or same environment. We push harder. We think it's us who is falling out. We tell ourselves maybe the next kitchen will fix it. Maybe I just need to learn more. Maybe I haven't earned the right to question this yet. A lot of you early career professionals think that it's too early and you shouldn't ask this question. But deep down, the question has really changed. It's no longer, can I make it here? It becomes sort of, do I even want this anymore? Do I even want this life that I'm living within a kitchen or within this restaurant environment? And that is this biggest trigger, I would say. And it is exactly where it gets heavy, because for most of us, being a chef is not a job. A lot of us got into this profession because it is sort of an identity, and it becomes an identity the longer you stay into it. You've introduced yourself as a chef to people. You've built your life around it. You've sacrificed for it. A lot of parts of your life, looking behind, you have sacrificed to get this. So when something feels off, it doesn't feel like a career question. It feels a little more personal. Like, did I get this wrong? Am I not good enough? Why am I not fulfilled doing things I worked so hard for? And because of that, a lot of chefs sort of stay longer than they should. Not necessarily because they love it, but because they don't know who they are without it. And this is this career and identity friction which causes most problems. So you sort of get stuck into this loop where you feel off, you blame yourself, you push harder. Nothing really changes. You just feel worse because you're just getting the same, but by trying even harder for that right now. So you look around, everyone else seems fine within your environment, or they at least look like they are. So you don't talk about it, and that's how this becomes invisible. But here's something I've been realizing more and more. Maybe burnout is not failure. Maybe it's just awareness. Maybe it's the moment when you realize the system that helped you grow and shaped you in who you are is no longer the system that will take you further. It was just to get you until here. Because kitchens are incredible for learning. They teach you discipline, they teach you standards, they teach you how to think apart from all the craft that you learn at work. But they are, honestly, I feel they're not designed for every stage of your life. At some point, they stop expanding you and start limiting you. And that's a very genuine fear or a reality that a lot of guests on our podcast have spoken about. And that's why I thought I want to dive deeper into it to be able to relate with the things that one is feeling when they're listening to this episode. The bigger issue is not that chefs are just burning out. It's that we are only shown one version of what being a chef is. We were shown culinary school, good restaurants, work your way up, and ultimately open your own place. That's the story, that's the script. But that's unfortunately not the reality anymore. Because today there are chefs who are working in R&D, like me. There are chefs that are building brands, personal or somebody else's, doing private dining, running content platforms like Justin on the podcast, consulting, working in food systems, those in education, corporate, media. There's so many of these layers, and all of these are credible options that exist. But most of us didn't see it early enough. So when we feel stuck, we think that literally there are no options. So if you're in that position right now, here are the things I would say you can actually think about. Let's think about, what are you optimizing for? Not what the industry values, like let's leave that aside for a moment, but think, what do you want? Do you want money? Do you want freedom? Creativity, stability, time? It doesn't have to be all of these things, but what are the things that you're optimizing for? Because depending on your answer, the right path looks completely different. The second question I would ask oneself is, where are you actually growing? Not where you could grow, not what the restaurant represents, where you're working in a sustainable restaurant, for example. So don't think about that. Think about what, like today, right now, are you learning something new? Or are you repeating the same service every day, how much ever creative the proposition of the restaurant sounds? Because repetition can look like growth, but it's not. The third question I would ask, the third proposal would be, start exploring before you quit. And actually, before I continue, I want to quickly say something over here. If you're listening to this and you relate with what I'm saying, I've recently started the Fugitive Chef Circle. It's basically a small community of people who are either in the space or thinking about stepping out of traditional kitchen paths. We have a WhatsApp group with different channels where people share what they're working on, ask questions, or just talk through what they are going through. I also share resources there, things like opportunities, jobs, or conversations that I come across. And recently, we have also started doing monthly meetups where people just come together and talk about where they are, what they're figuring out, what questions they have that we can answer together as a community, and what's next for them. So honestly, that's been one of the most valuable parts, just seeing people realize that they're not the only ones thinking this way. The beauty of community is when you come together with people who are facing similar challenges, you come up with solutions which are beyond what you could think just by yourself. So if this episode resonates with you, you can check out the website. It's called fugitivechefs.com, and you'll see all the details there to join the community. It would be really great to have you there. But yeah, coming back to this idea of feeling stuck. This is the most important one. Don't wait until you're completely burned out. Talk to people, try things, reach out. Because these options exist. You're just not seeing them from inside the same environment. Next, also partly I would like to focus on why does this podcast exist? And honestly, this is exactly why I started Fugitive Chefs. Not to tell people what to do, but to show what's possible. Because once you see different paths, you start thinking differently. Maybe I cannot individually help each of you, but I'm here to show you options of what else is out there. And once you honestly start thinking differently, you realize you're not stuck, you are just not exposed to it. And if you're feeling this right now, every word that I said, I would say don't rush to quit, but also don't ignore it completely. That feeling that you feel right now, it's not weakness, it's information, it's a signal, it's a sign, it's a driver that is within you. So I would say it is sort of telling you that something needs to change in your current atmosphere, in the current environment of how you see your identity and how you see your career. And the worst thing that you can do is to pretend it's not there and everything is completely fine. So I would say start small, have conversations, explore, because most chefs don't leave because they failed. They leave because they never saw another way forward. So if this episode resonated with you, the best way to support the show is simple. Follow it, rate it, or share it with someone who might need to hear this. This is the most important one. There's not enough people who know about this podcast, about this platform, about the stories out here. I mean, just pick up a story that will relate with somebody you know, send them the episode. Because I think if you're listening so far, and if you're listening to this episode number 60 or whatever this is, means that this brings value to you. So, I mean, the best you can do out of it is share it with people, or if you do not know who you can share with, rate it. Because when you rate it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or you leave a review or you comment, this activity makes the podcast visible to others who are on the algorithm searching something relatable. Maybe there's somebody out there searching kitchen burnout and this episode shows up to them because you have rated it as something that helped you. So I would say most chefs are unfortunately not talking about this, but a lot of them are feeling it. And sometimes just hearing that you're not the only one is where things start to shift, honestly. So I hope this has helped for those who are learning. It's just a nudge in the right direction and more than a solution. And I will see you soon in the next episode.